getting myself organised. I'll be with you shortly. Hey. Be there in just 1 second, just getting you up on my iPad so I can see the comments. Sorry. Just trying to remember my password. Sorry, hang on a second. Hi, Cressida. Sorry, I'm doing 2-step verification-y thingy bobbies and it's annoying me. Sorry. Alright, where are we? I saw me. Hello, lovely people who are here already. Just try and get myself sorted. Hi Judith, hi Adrian, hi Em, hi Matt. My Jean? Not sure how to pronounce that. Hi Tracy, hope you're ready to create. Just going to grab out some paints while I'm just waiting for a few minutes. So this is kind of what we're going to be creating today. Hi Pamela. Sorry for moving the camera. Just trying to get you all in frame. There we go. I think that's straight. Whew. So all ready to play today. Oh good. Woohoo, 2 AM. Oh my goodness, you are keen. You are very, very keen. Okay. So we'll wait a little while for a few people to come in, but I'll just talk about what you need. I put it up on the page. Hi Alison. This is a really simple page, so but it's also fun to do, and I thought it would just be nice and relaxing to have a play with. Basically all you need is a few colours of acrylic paint. Now you can go traditional colours, so for example in this example I've got red, green and gold. You could do shades of blue. You could go nuts and do, my favourite Christmas combo is hot pink and lime green, so any combination you want you can do in the background. So and it also doesn't need to be done in your journal. If it's something that you would like to put up on the wall, for example, you might like to get you can get these little canvas boards, so you could do one of these so you could hang it up to match your holiday decor. Yeah, so need that. I'm going to use a little bit of white gesso and a little bit of grey. I've got a little bit of pink for his nose, but if you've got reds out and white you can just mix that. I'm going to be painting my Santa on some black card just to give a bit of a contrast, but if you just want to do it on white, that's fine. It really doesn't make any difference whatsoever. So I'm just going to do it on black so you can sort of see the difference it gives you. Up in the Mixed Media Creative Queens Facebook group, if you go there and join in, there is a photo of this sketch that you can print out or just take a little bit more time to have a look at. Again, it's fairly simple. I'm not necessarily a drawer, but I can do simple shapes. So that's all we're going to be looking at today. And I left the sketch lines in so you could actually see where I drew over them to get the shapes that I was doing. And apart from that, you just need paint pens. So I've used paint pens in similar colours in the background. You can do whatever. Hi Aubrey, hi Fran. 11 a.m. in Johannesburg. Oh, cool. Excellent. So let's get stuck in, shall we? We're going to do the background first, and then we are going to do the little Santa. So I just love those types of Santas. I know they do have a name. They're the Swedish, I think Swedish, Scandinavian type gnomes. So they're just gorgeous. And for a change, I'm only going to do one page. I know in classes I tend to get carried away and do two, but I'm actually only going to do one page today. So short and sweet. So I am sure everyone is busy this time of year. I also have some caffeine with me because it's that time of night and I need caffeine. Okay. Gnomes, yes. There is a particular name for that style of gnome though, and I'm not 100% sure what it's called. Mum sews them, which is where I got the kind of idea from. So, and again, for those who sew, they're a fairly simple pattern to make because, well, I don't know sewing at all. I can work with paper, I can't work with fabric. But yeah, they look cute. She made some for my girls and they adore them. So I'm going to start off in the background. I am going to stick with traditional colours just because it's easier and I've got them near me. I'm just also throwing things at me. You'll be very glad I actually cleaned my paint water for you today. So we're doing well. So I'm just starting off with I think it's a 1-inch brush, any size brush you want, and we're just going to paint squares in the background. They're going to overlap a little bit, and you can dry them off in between hand. No rhyme or reason. They can be big or small as you want. So just have fun with it. So I'm going to start off with some red first. I'm not putting out too much paint because I know I can always put out more later. And I just like the 1-inch brush because I don't really need to think about it being too square because I can kind of just use a brush to help me. So if your edges are a little bit fuzzy, it really doesn't matter because we're going to fix them up with the paint pens. But try and get them as squarish as possible, I suppose. So I might make this one long and thin. So like a lot of things I do, I'm going to do it in 3s. That's just my little rule that I can remember. Odd numbers look good, but it just means that it sort of creates those visual triangles on the page. I actually probably need a little bit more paint. I'm being a bit scant with it. Please let me know if it's too quiet, or if you've got any questions as we go along, please ask, because that's what this is all about. Hopefully everyone's finding our class, and welcome to those people who are doing this later on, because again, I know this is a busy time of the year, so I totally get it if you need to catch up later. But I just wanted to, yes, this is Ruby. I just wanted to do this as a bit of a thank you to you all, because I've really enjoyed all your support this year, and I've had a bit of a, well, I haven't had a tough year in comparison to a lot of people, but I found 2021 a little bit tough with everything I've done. So I just wanted to do something to sort of say, no, we've actually had a good year. We've done lots of stuff. So yeah, and we're nearly at 16,000 on my channel, which is ridiculous. So here's to the next lot of subscribers. So I'm mixing up my paints today. I know when I'm on this channel I tend to use my Dina Wakley paints, but she actually doesn't have very many reds and greens, so I'm just mixing it up with what I've got around. These are the Paper Artsy paints, which are still acrylic paints. They still work the same. The only slight difference is their opacity is slightly different. So this one, for example, is London Bust and it's translucent. It really doesn't matter in the long run, but you can sort of see as you put it down that it's just that little bit lighter, I suppose. It doesn't have all the coverage that the ruby has. But this is just our background, so we don't mind. So I just want different shades on. I'm trying not to get things to touch, but you know, if they do, it doesn't really matter. Everything's going to be divided up by paint pens anyway, so I was a bit generous with this one. You can always go back and put an extra coat on. Won't do that. I'm just talking to myself. No, it doesn't seem that long ago since we did the Three Wise Men. I used to be a card maker, so I used to do lots of Christmas cards, and I don't anymore, so it's actually nice. I don't very often do Christmas crafts apart from an inks class, but because I've changed to high school now, I don't even get to do that anymore. So it's actually nice to have a reason to get out these colour paints and to do things like this. So yeah, we're basically just making a bit of a patchwork quilt in the background. So it really is really, really simple. And again, as I said in my introduction and my posts on Facebook and wherever you saw them, this background can be adapted for anything. So you don't need to do it on holiday colours. You can, you know, do this for any particular piece that you wanted to do. Just change up the patterns you put in it, for example, and change up your focal image, and you're going to have a completely different piece. And for those people who did do the Three Wise Men with me last year, I think it's still accessible on my YouTube channel, so you can go and check that out. You could use those as a focal image on this instead of the one that we're doing today. So if you don't like what we're doing today, go find another image. Simple as that. So this is Evergreen. Put one in there. You see I've overlapped that a bit. I'm really not worried about it, but obviously if you want to be nice and neat, please do so. I do like sort of overlapping them a little bit, just makes it look a little bit more random. And if you don't like where, for example, on this one you can see a little bit of the red, just put another coat of paint over the top. Preferably dry it first and then put another coat over. But again, remembering we're going to be doing some pattern work over the top of these, so things can be covered. If you really don't like it, that's where you stick your focal image. Oh, that would look nice. Yep, you could do that. When you do that, Pamela, and then you can show the rest of us. I would encourage you, if you do tonight's class, whenever you do it, please, I'd love to see what you come up with. That's one of the joys. So if you're on Instagram, chuck it up there, tag me in it so I can see it. Or if you're in the Mixed Media Creative Queens group, chuck it in there so we can celebrate your amazing artiness. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with, Pamela. How many people tonight are actually creating alongside me? I know sometimes people just, which is totally fine, watch and then do it later. Some people create alongside me, which I enjoy. So if I'm going too fast, tell me to slow down. I don't know if anyone is able to, but I'm not actually able to switch between screens. So if anyone is on, some of the other areas and see someone asking where our stuff is, can you tell them it's on Facebook? Oh, excellent, me and Shana. Well, you've got your own Santa Claus that you can model yours on, Cressida. That'd be awesome. I can just see Nico in the centre of the page. You could cut them out and collage them on. Yes, it's always nice. I love it because I get to chat to you guys, which is always fun. Because, well, I enjoy doing the videos. Quite often I've done them a few months in advance, so I've kind of forgotten about them. And then people ask me questions about them. It's like, oh, okay, I have to go back and remember what I actually did. So actually doing it live with you is good. And it's helpful for people to see how I actually work. Hi, Jolene, how are you? Oh, you're very welcome. You poor thing having to work. One good thing, I'm on holiday, so I'm quite enjoying that. We've just had our, my sister and her children are here, so my kids are loving having their cousins because I haven't seen them for so long. So it's an absolute madhouse, but in a good way. And we've been swimming and out to tea and water pistoling and doing all sorts of crazy things. So everyone's very tired at night. So I actually got both my kids into bed without an argument tonight, which was good. Not that I ever do have arguments, but some of them like to stay up and chat a bit longer than 8 o'clock. Hi, Karen. Oh, there you go. You're new to watching. Awesome. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, Diane. I'm so glad to catch you all. Because I love chatting to you through the comments, but it's nice to actually catch you in real life and have a chat to you and see how you're all doing. So I hope this year has treated you well. Hopefully next year will treat us all better. Okay, Jolene, look after yourself and I'll catch you on the replay. So I'm just drying off my layers as I go. One, because I'm really impatient. But also it means if you're overlapping, you're going to get the clear, more crisp colours instead of having things muddy together. So, watching Too Hot in My Eye area to create night now. Oh, you poor thing. It's actually been really cold here the last 3 days. Well, I say really cold. But it did get down to like 12 degrees, which is cold for summer. So I do actually have a jumper on at the moment. But it is going to warm up in the next few days. I must have just had a cold front go through. We shall have fun. Too hot today, that's my excuse. Oh, good. Good. Yeah. I'm terrible when it comes to Christmas. I'm just not organised. I actually surprised myself because I was more... I'm more organised than I thought I was, which was, oh, you silly woman. This gold's been doing this to me a lot. It's a good thing about using acrylic paint. If you get a splodge and it's dry, you can just wipe it off. No, I didn't gesso my page first. Good question though. I very rarely gesso my page first because I'm lazy. Oh, that gold, my goodness me. Yuck. Hello from Chicago. It's, my YouTube channels are usually sped up just because people don't want to hang around, some people do, but you know, most of my pages take half an hour to an hour to create, Adrienne, and yeah, so I speed them up, but because I narrate through them, you should get a bit of an idea of what I'm actually doing. If I didn't narrate the whole way through them, I'd probably slow them down a little bit so you could actually see what I was doing. But I tend to work quickly anyway. So I always have to apologise in class, and Christopher can attest to this. That's like, yeah, sorry, I just work quickly. So this is what we're doing. And it does have its benefits because it means you're not overthinking things, you just do. So I'm just choosing paint colours or what have you. So, okay, so you can still see I'm overlapping things here and there. Oops. Oh, you're on the Central Coast. Did you get that tornado or hurricane that went through? That looked a bit... I saw some of the footage from New South Wales. I watched paint dry. I need that t-shirt. Yeah, I'm too impatient to watch paint dry, so I don't. That's why I have my heat gun. I get in trouble for that all the time. It's like, oh, you shouldn't heat acrylic paint. It's like, I know, but I'm not hanging around to watch it dry. So what colour am I going to use? I'll use this one. I take about 2 hours. Yeah, that's fine. Well, the more time we have in our studios, the better. So that's good. When I did a night course at TAFE, 2 years of art making, printmaking course, and my tutors always used to get really frustrated with me because like people would take weeks to finish paintings and I would finish within a day because I just like having stuff finished. I like having that sense of accomplishment that it's done, and you know, I don't rush through so it's just finished. Like I do actually try to do it to a good standard, but yeah, it just gets frustrating for me. So plus like at home, because I've got little kids, it's just that time thing. So I just steal time when I can and I work quickly so it's actually done rather than having to worry about coming back to it. Okay, I'm just going to do here. Oops, tiny little one there. So you can make these as big or as small as you want. It really doesn't matter how they end up. You just want some stuff in the background. Oops, and don't put your finger in wet paint. So I find with paper artsy paint is really good, but it's a little bit more fluid. So I tend to put out a little bit more and I get ridges in it. Whereas with the Dina Wakley stuff, I can sort of spread it out until it's completely dry. So that's just me though. Most people would put their paint onto a palette and paint it out. Again, me being me, why would you do that? Right, so funnily enough, we're done. Woohoo. Okay, so what we're going to do now is actually get our paint pens out. Now, when I did this originally, I kind of did this backwards, but I learned from my experience. So you get to have the do as I say, not as I do experience. It's that one, yeah, okay. So I've got a whole heap of different sized. Which gold am I using? I use the Dina Wakley Gilt. So that was a good one. If you have it, this is my favourite gold, the iridescent bronze from Golden. It's awesome. Over here. Oops. It's just so magic. I don't know why I didn't put it on here, but it's just a little bit, it's not quite as yellowy as that one. It's got some sort of those bronzy, I suppose, undertones, green undertones to it. So, oh, that's good. Right, so I've got a whole heap of Posca paint pens, and I've used pen colours that I'm using in the background just for the reason of that repetition. So if you've used blues, different shades of blues in the background, use different blue pens and possibly a white. If you've used hot pink and lime green, use hot pink and lime green. And if you don't have the Posca paint pens, use the paints that you've used on here just with a fine paintbrush. But I find it's just a lot more convenient using Posca paint pens to do line work or dot work. So I've got a range of sizes. People often ask me about them. This is the 1M. This is the finest one, which I do for all my outlining. I've got the 5M is the other one that I tend to use mainly. So these are my two sort of standards. I have started using the 3M, which is sort of one in between those two. And, oh no, that's the wrong one. I don't want, oh no, I do want that one. This is the 7M, which does lovely big dots on it. So they're just a good size to have. The whites, I tend to get as many as possible, but whatever you've got will work. So what we're going to do is just do patterns all over it. And the easiest thing I find is to repeat patterns in the same color, in the same colors. So for example, if I do a pattern in here, I'm going to do it in these two sections. If I do a color here, I'm going to do it here and here as well, if that makes sense, or a pattern, sorry. I'm going to go in with my big paint pen and just do dots. So I'm going right up to the edges of my boxes. And I'm also going off the edge of the page. So it's just a little trick to make our eyes obviously think that it's not just stopping, you know, at the border, it's actually going on. That would be awesome, Pamela, but one, I need to come up with ideas for it, and two, just trying to get the time to do it. So if I could, I would, but between all my other commitments, it might be a bit tricky. I'll try and do it as much as I can, but I do find it easier when I'm on school holidays, especially since I've just started a new job. It's just a bit hectic, and I have to be nice to my husband too, because he has to look after the kids. So, well, not tonight because they're obviously in bed, but yeah. So yes, in theory it would be lovely, but I'm not sure how practical it would be. Okay. So this one I had in 4 places, so I'm just going to put it in. Cool. Okay. Now the one thing I will say, because I'm really good at this, is don't put your hand into it. It is still wet acrylic paint. It will dry quite quickly, but I'm really good at sticking my hand in it and smudging it. So just FYI, wet paint. Okay, what we're going to do the next one. Might do stripy paper. So this is basically just making it look like patterned paper. So you can go a bit crazy with this if you want. I will also show you a bit of a cheat to do this. So if you don't want to hand draw stuff, not that any of the stuff I'm drawing is difficult. Oops. Just make sure your pen's primed up. So okay. Yeah, having a life. Who would want one? It'd be nice if I could do this as a full-time job, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. And I am, well, depending on what's happening in the world, I am actually traveling a bit next year, supposedly. I've got a retreat in Adelaide I'm going to. I've got a stamp camp in ACT in July. There's a possibility of going to Melbourne to teach some classes as well. So that is depending on how the world is going at that stage. To be quite honest, I'd be quite happy to stay in Tassie too. Okay, last one up here. But if you did want to do more classes from me, there is coming up in February. I'm part of the Mixed Media Art Summit. So there'll be some information on my pages about that and how to join up. And I'm one of there's 40 guest tutors. I'm one of the 40 who's got a class. So there's that coming up as well. Oh, she might do. She's a soft touch, is Niamh. Ah! I nearly dumped my water pot all over me. That would have been fun. Okay, so if you find that you don't like doodling, because I do have people who hate doodling, there is a little bit of a cheat you can do. If I can find the stuff I want. I'm just going to dry this off. And grab a sponge. I put my sponges in a really inconvenient spot. Sorry. That will do. Okay, so I'm gonna, I don't know, I'll do some heights. So just grab a stencil. It can be any stencil. I've just used one that's got lots of patterns on it. This one's got hearts on it. Obviously, if you had snowflakes, you could use that. I just grabbed what was in my tub. So you don't have to do this. This is just for those people who get a little bit nervous around hand drawing or having to think of patterns. But in all honesty, if you look at wrapping paper, it's, you know, dots and lines, most of it anyway, so. Not at all. You keep me on my toes talking about that. Have you sorted out your scissor situation? So if you're stenciling, really important that you go up and down, not sliding across, that you make sure that the paint is worked into your sponge so it's not going underneath your stencil. And you get the jingle jangle of me doing this next to you. Oops. So if you didn't want to doodle, you could obviously stamp in these as well, or you can use your stencils to do that. So, you know, you're only limited by your imagination and how you choose to do this. What am I going to do for my next one? I do a bit of tartan. Good old bit of tartan. I've got lines and lines and lines, so that's okay. So I'm going right to edge for a reason. If you're a bit wobbly, if it doesn't quite work, it's okay because we're going to be covering over this. So this is still the messy stage, and there is a reason why I'm doing it in this order, because I didn't in the original one I did, and it annoyed me. My name's Niamh, so the MH is a V sound, so it's a Gaelic name or Irish name. So in the Gaelic language, they don't have a V, so they use the MH as the V sound. Oh, I might use actually. Oh, I've got gold there too. Oh, I might do that too. I'm getting very creative now. So my daughter's name's Aoife, and that's Aoife. So again, another good Gaelic name, makes no sense whatsoever. Ever. But there's more and more Aoifes coming to Australia, which is nice. It's really, they're both quite common names in Ireland, obviously, where we grew up, or where I grew up. But I have met a few Niamhs now in Australia, but it was me for a long time. And I don't know if anyone is old enough to remember Baly Angel. I was about 14 at the time when it came out, and there was a Niamh in that. And the number of people who came up and asked me, "Oh, you named after Niamh on Baly Angel?" It's like, have a look at the age of the person you're talking to and ask that question again. So people can be a bit silly sometimes. So with your tartan type pattern, you're going to mix a whole heap of colours together. So you can wait for it to dry would be a really good start. But has anyone ever used that envelope at the front of their... Actually, I think Cressida does, because I've asked this question before. But I only ever use the edge of it to prime my paper pens. I've never actually used the envelope. Oh, really? People are really silly sometimes when it comes to stuff like that. Okay. The other thing that I quite often do, and you'll see me do this in my videos, is I quite often outline my stenciled images, which seems a bit pointless, but it just really helps pop them out from the background. They don't have to be exact. It doesn't matter if it's a bit wibbly wobbly. It just gives another bit of interest to what you're doing on the page. So again, like this could be a really simple background, or you can make it as simple or as involved as you want, really. So I'm showing you all the things you can do on this. You can obviously stop at any point, and this is really handy for those people who are, you know, watching this as a preview or playback, or just watching as I go along, because you can look at it and go, yeah, I'm not doing that. What's she doing? I don't hear about Keith Sullivan very much anymore. Last time I sort of really thought about him was when he did 24, and even then I think I only watched the first series of it. Oops. I don't think I saw that one. If anyone's got any other ideas for my gold and red bits, that would be good. Just trying to think. Stars? Yeah, that's a good idea. Might do big stars. Big stars in one. So has anyone who is thinking about doing this page got any ideas for what colour scheme they're going to do? Ooh, that'd be nice. Turquoise, white and silver. Oh, that'd be beautiful. Hi Sandra, how are you? You've been very quiet. I love a bit of good turquoise. Actually, turquoise and red are gorgeous. That's one of my favourite colour combos. I'm going with a smaller pen in those ones too. That's how we do classes, so you can have a go. And once you've got it down pat, you can adapt it and change it to what you like. That's why I love doing these things, and I love teaching classes. And that's why I really encourage you to share your things. So Pamela, that's your challenge for Christmas, to share a piece of your artwork. Because by sharing it, you see what everyone else can come up with. You know, Cressida can tell you, she does some of the in-person classes with me. And it's my favourite thing because I love it when everyone does something different. I don't know if you saw my Instagram recently, but the last class I did was an apron class. And every single person in that room used different colours, different styles, different aprons. And it was just amazing. And every single one really made it their own. Just learned when the chat wasn't YouTube. Yeah, I struggle with that. That's why I'm glad I'm on this side. Oh, grey, magenta, grey and white would be lovely. I should have done a different colour combo for you, Margene, so you could see it too. Right. Last one. I might do big green dots. I think. I'm a sucker for dots. Oh, excuse me, my stomach's rumbling. So the important thing, well, not the important, what is important, is that repetition. So repetition of design, repetition of colour. So what I would suggest, if you don't have paint pens like this, you can see I've sort of chosen to replicate the colours I've got in the background. So if I didn't have these paint pens, I would just be using the paint colours I'd used in the background, not any others, and using those and just sort of going, you know, reds over greens, greens over reds type thing, or adding some of the silver in. And obviously if you've got white and so on, white always looks good. I find it looks very fresh. So you'll notice I'm not actually using much black on this page, if at all. It's going to be all white, which again is unusual for me because usually the black pen is the first pen I pick up. So I hope this isn't boring for you guys, just watching me draw dots. And if you have got any questions for me, even if it's not about this, fire them at me. I enjoy chatting to you and I don't get a chance to do it very often. So if there's anything you've seen me do recently or want to know how to do, if you've got any ideas for what you'd like to see in the future, hit me up. Apart from weekly lessons every week, because I just really can't do that. Yeah, I'm on to you. You don't tell a teacher that you haven't shared something because that's the first person she's going to pick on. No, actually, that's not fair. I never pick on kids, but I always encourage them to share their work because it's really important. Not only for the person sharing, but for the other people in class, because you see something done in a different way. And you think, oh, I didn't think about doing it that way. And it's also selfish for me because I get to see lots of colour combinations that I wouldn't usually use, done in a different way too. So I appreciate it as well. Oh, you're on to me. We are going to be doing that, but we're going to use white. but we're doing this bit first. Okay, so obviously if you wanted to, you could leave it like this, but we're going to doll it up now and make it look like a stitched quilt. So the reason, when I originally did this, I actually drew outlines around all the squares first and did the stitching. And then I did the patterns in between. But I had areas that didn't all match up, or it didn't go quite to the edge because I'd go over the stitching and it just was a bit messy. So I thought that doing it at the end would be much simpler, which it is. So I'm just going to get my 5M pen, so a slightly thicker pen. The reason I'm using that is it gives me a bit more chance to have even edges. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could use a ruler, but I really don't care. And if you wanted to do black on this, obviously you can. I'm just choosing to do white. I just, again, want that repetition of colour happening. But you can see just by framing it up, it helps to tie everything together. And the good thing about this is you can sort of tidy up areas that are a little bit messy. So the other thing is, like, oh, don't put your pen in wet paint, Niamh. If you didn't want to sit here and draw all this stuff, and I am sure there are many scrapbookers here, or people who have scrapbooking papers, or card makers with scraps of paper, like, there is nothing stopping you cutting up different shapes and sticking these down onto a collage. And doing the same over the top if you wanted to. Like, you could do patterns over the top, or do the stitching around it. But it's just a really cool way to tie everything together. A really funny little dog leg I put in there. Does remind me of my wrapping though, because my wrapping does get a bit... What shape was that present supposed to be? How do I store my Posca pens? I store them in lots of different ways. I've got some here. I've got them vertically and horizontally. So I store them either way. Most of the ones I use most often are stored vertically, but I'm using those almost daily. But the ones I store horizontally, I can pick them up and pretty much go straight away too. So I've never had any issues with them, to be perfectly honest, whatever way I store them, which is why I love them. Not actually sponsored by them, but I use them for almost everything. It'd be nice if I could be sponsored by them, that'd be great. And a bit of a leak there by the looks of it, but Santa's going to go over that, so I don't really mind. Okay, so once you've done that, again, stop when you want to, but I'm going to go in and do some stitching marks. So you can either use your thin pen or your thick pen. I'm going to actually use my medium-sized pen just to get those marks on. You can be delicate or not delicate, it's up to you. I'm not really being delicate, I'm making them different size. I'll put my bracelet, excellent. My bracelet's gone in that and dragged it over something else, great. Oh dear. Oh well. Guess we all know where Santa's going. If you really wanted to, you could fix that up, but it really doesn't bother me. So again, you could do black or white to do this. It really doesn't matter. And you could also change the stitches up. Like you could do a little running stitch if you wanted to. Those people who know something about stitches, I'm sure you could do something fancy. And again, if you don't like hand drawing stuff, I know Tim Holtz has a stamp set with different stitches on it. So you could stamp those over the top to get different stitches, which could look quite cool. You know, just me enabling you for something else. Thanks, Karen. That's okay, you can catch up. We haven't done much. We've done lots, but you haven't really missed out on much. We've just been fairly relaxed tonight. Just playing along with paint and mic making. Those white dots are my favourite, and like they were the simplest ones to make out of all of them. I just love that. I love that it doesn't have to be difficult. Sometimes I think we make it more difficult than it actually needs to be. I know, I certainly do. Try not to. So my niece and nephew were very upset that they couldn't come to this class tonight. It's past their bedtime. So we're going to do this tomorrow with my kids. So I'll post you the kids' version of this. See what they come up with. Yes, stitch stencils, that would be good too. Darkroom Door has stitch stencils as well, which would be really good. So you could use those. There's all sorts of great products out there to help people. But to be honest, the rustic hand-drawn, not everything's all organised. Well, sorry. This suits my style of sewing because my sewing is definitely not neat, definitely not, you know, my stitches are all sorts of different widths and lengths, and my daughters have cottoned onto this, and anytime they need something mended, oh, we'll take it to Granny's. Granny will do it for us. It's like, yeah, that will be good. So I hope that makes sense why we did that at the end rather than at the beginning. So when I first did that, I did that at the beginning and then put those patterns in, and you can sort of see why that might have been a bit of an issue. So that's our background. Pretty simple. How are we feeling about it? Any questions, queries? Are we okay to go on to drawing our Santa? Oh, sorry, I'm just having a stretch. Oh. Cool. Okay, I'm just going to leave this to one side. We will come back to it. Now, as I said before at the beginning, I'm going to do mine on black card. You can do it on white card. It really doesn't matter. Black just gives you a bit of depth to your shading. I've got really great glare on my pad, so if I don't answer any questions, it's probably because I haven't seen them. Just causing a tidal wave, so hang on. Yep, everything's falling over. That's better. Okay, so this is a sketch I put on, I was going to say Pinterest, on the Mixed Media Creative Queens site. It is just done up as a photo. So it's not a PDF, but you should be able to still print it out. But it really is a simple way to draw. If I can draw it, you can draw it. And it's just breaking it down into its base components. So I'm just going to use a white pencil, hopefully so you can see it. Unless the photo I've got up on screen, I've left in my sketch lines. I'm going to leave my sketch lines in this too. I'm just going to paint over them. I am using a water-soluble pencil, so it will disappear. I'm not using a Posca paint pen or anything to do it, but it really doesn't matter because you're going to paint over the top anyway or cut out around it. So, you know, do what you do. If you just want to directly trace this, that's fine too. If you want to print this out and paint over the top, that would work too. So I'm going to start off with drawing his body, which is basically just like an extended, it's a kind of triangle shape in all honesty. So you can sort of see it's a triangle shape. Okay, when I draw, I tend to break things down into really simple shapes. So that's what I'm going to do. So I just flare out his bottom. Okay, so once I've got that, I'm going to draw in his legs. He's got short little legs like me. So my bracelet jangling. And up that side down U for his boot. And then just a little rectangle at the bottom. Oops. So we've got the bottom half done. Okay, when I get up to here, about halfway on your page-ish, I'm going to draw in the nose because that's going to help me draw the beard in, and then I can put the hat on top. So depending on how short or how big you want his hat or how big you want his body, put your nose in. That gives you a good idea of where everything else is going to go. So I'm going to make his nose go about there, a nice big red nose. Okay, so from the top point of the nose, I'm going to go down and make this moustache shape, and it's going to meet up in the bottom here. Okay, so it's sort of going to go out and around and meet up at the bottom. That makes sense. Okay, so same, going to travel down here, up and around. And I've got my moustache. Got a little bit of a mouth, tongue, whatever in there. And then my the bottom part of the beard is just kind of like a stepped Christmas tree. It's actually kind of a reverse of what's happening up here. So you can make it as big or small as you want. So I'm just going to have the first bit come out here. So it just goes out over the edge, in. I'm just jangling all the way here. Okay, so you can make it as big or as small as you want. Okay. Then I am going to put on to the top of his nose the white bit, I suppose, of his hat. So that's sort of going to go out and around like that. Will be the fluffy bit. And then I'm just going to do sort of stacked U shapes on top of that, which are now gradually going to get a bit smaller. Okay, and then I'm going to do this last little bit, which is going to sort of curve around. That's, you know, it's not very exact, but it does. It does a job. So you can play around with it until you're happy with the shape of it. But that's pretty much the shape. Okay, so I've extended this down a little bit. I might move my little pom-pommy up here, in fact, because that's a bit chaotic. Somewhere like that. It'll work out in the end. Okay, but I've got my basic shape. So that's what I'm going to do. Any questions about that? But the sketch is up there. If you want to use that, you can print it out, you can cut it out, you can colour over the top of that. So that is up to you. There are no two identical notes. Exactly. They're all different. Okay, so I'm going to be working onto this. I haven't gessered it and I've used my black to begin with. I haven't actually given myself much room to paint his body. Oh well, it'll work. I might paint in some of the body and then paint the beard again. So I'm just going to put some red in there. I'm going to use a slightly smaller brush. Go with the flow, I like that. Okay. So the reason I'm using black, which seems a bit strange, because I'm not going to get a pure colour And it's going to sort of have this shading underneath it. That sort of gives it a little bit of depth and texture, which I found when I did the last one, which I really liked. So if I was doing this on white, I would be getting really straight colour, but you can see the difference on the black. So it's just to get a different tone, really. I'm going to be mixing some reds on here as well, so it's not going to be all the one colour. So this is kind of going to be just a base coat for me, and you can see I'm actually leaving the brush strokes in deliberately as well, because I want some of that black coming through from below. So I can still see those pencil lines, but not enough to bother me. And they're going to help guide me when I do some of my other bits and pieces over the top. So I did like that one, just being that little bit, not quite as long. So I'm actually deliberately moving my paintbrush in different directions. I suppose there's a little bit, it probably is nothing like it, but a bit more folk-arty in the way I'm painting. So it's not smooth. I'm trying to put a little bit of texture into it, if that makes sense. Okay. I'm also going to put in his nose. Landslide. I was actually going to paint him green to see what a green gnome would look like, because I thought that would be pretty cool. If anyone wants to try that out, that would be pretty cool. So again, you can sort of see it on this lighter colour. You can sort of see those different shades coming through, which is what I want. I'll hold it up a bit closer to the screen because I don't know if you can actually see that. So remembering we're going to put a few layers on this, so it doesn't look perfect at the moment. That's okay. I am going to dry off my first layer though. Okay, I'm going to go in with some of these other reds. My watch is telling me to breathe. I always laugh when my watch tells me to breathe. It's like, of course I'm breathing. What do you think I'm doing? Again, I'm just sort of overlaying over the top. So this is a more translucent red. So just depending on what colours you have got access to, you're going to get different effects. So it's just more building up the colour. But again, by doing it, and I'm actually deliberately painting outside my lines here because I know I'm going to trim this up afterwards. So one of the reasons why I'm doing it on a separate piece of paper. So don't panic if you go out and over the lines. It's all good. I'm also going to give his bottom bit of his nose a bit more of a red tone to it. No, all of them are going to be completely different. Completely different, which is what we want. Okay. And that's what I love about art. You know, we can be following the same lesson, but we're all going to come up with different stuff. Okay. So I'm just going to put a little bit of dark in this with my fuchsia. And I'm actually just going to use my finger to do this. So this sort of gives you a bit of a translucent layer. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm kind of able to rub it in because I've put texture in underneath with those brush strokes. It's kind of sitting on the texture. So I'm only doing it on the bottom left-hand side of my areas because I'm going to go in with a lighter colour on the other side to give it a bit of a highlight, if that makes sense. So if you didn't have lots of shades of colours, you just make new lines. Yep. This is where you can use colour pencils, and I will use some colour pencils at the end as well. But this is where having colour pencils comes in handy as well. So I don't want that to be very white, but I do want to just lighten off those little edge bits a little bit. So it gives a bit of a frosted look to it, kind of. And if it's too frosted for you, that's where you can go back in. And again, you don't need to use your fingers. I just find it easier sometimes to use my fingers. Oops, my stomach's rumbling again. There you go. Okay. Oops. You want to put red in there for his mouth. Oops. So whatever paint colours you decide to do this in, you know, if you did greens, if you did whatever, you're doing the same sort of thing. So darks and lights, and just sort of mixing and matching together. I'm just going to make sure all of that's dry. Oh, definitely. Yep. I've got a big canvas. I don't know if anyone saw it on my YouTube channel, but I might have been on my Instagram. Well, I did it on my YouTube channel. I did the monsters. And when they were here last time, they all painted them, and they did such a good job with them. So I got it printed into, took a photo of it and got it printed into small canvases that they've all got hanging in their rooms. And I did post that to to Instagram. So I will definitely, if they have a go at this, show you copies of theirs as well. Okay, now this seems really ridiculous. I'm actually going to paint his beard and his hat bit, you know, the fluffy bit in this hat, with a light pink first. And this is actually going to make the white whiter. So it just gives a little bit of shading underneath. So it looks like there is actually layers to his beard. But again, I'm not being very careful with how I'm painting it. I'm letting some of that black peek through, because this is where we get our incidental shading from. So if you are not, you know, brilliant at putting in shading, this is Cheat's way of doing it. Okay. So I'm just sort of painting it out. Again, putting some of that texture in. Don't worry if it sort of goes over the lines, because we're going to draw those in afterwards again. Okay, overlap it a little bit. There we go. Got a little, oh, I forgot to do this wobbly bit. Oh, that's good, I'm glad. If I can find a cheats way of doing things, I usually do. Oops, he's going to have a very big pom-pom by the looks of it. It's okay. Okay, now I'm just using a different brush this time. This is, I have no idea, I don't do brushes. It's a round brush. It says 200 Taklon 5. Don't know what that means. Basically, it's just to get a different pattern on my thing. And I'm going to just use white gesso. So I'm using pure white on top of this. And all I'm going to do is just really just little circles. They're not sort of overlapping too much. Just following the shape. So I've got some of that colour peeping through. I'm not covering the whole thing. Just getting that sort of texture in. So curly beard going into some of that red. So you could, obviously, if you wanted to, you know, if you had a bit of grey, go in there with that too. Especially if you didn't have the black underneath to begin with. Okay, and this is where you can soften up those, like that was very triangular before, so this is where with a brush you can sort of just make it a little bit more something else. So with his moustache, it's a little bit more directional, I think. My husband doesn't have facial hair, so I'm not really an authority on it. Still that sort of swirly motion, just getting that texture. You know, fuzzy edges. Okay, so I'm just going to go in with more straight lines because I do want to have some difference between his hat and his facial hair. And just by the way, if you actually think I know what I'm doing, I have no idea. I'm just making this up as I go along, like I do with most of my things that I do. But what I am going to do is I'm going to get a dry brush, a little bit of white paint on it, and I'm actually going to make it a bit furry. Just again, it's just that difference in texture, I suppose. So you can do as many coats of this as you want to make it however you want it. Have a play around your brushes, because some might be better or some might be worse at doing things than this one's probably a bit too stiff, but that's okay. Still a cool effect. Sort of. There you go. Okay. So now on to his boots. You can use black if you want. You probably don't actually need to use anything because it's black already. I'm just using dark grey. That's Payne's grey. I'm just painting in his boots with. The reason I'm doing it is just to get the same texture, not texture, but everything else has been painted with matte paint. So it just makes the cardboard the same consistency, same shine. So if you had like gloss paint that you were doing this with, it just means your shoes would be glossy as well. If you just left them, everything else on the page would be shiny, and this wouldn't be, if that makes sense. Just banging along with my... And again, probably just should have put the legs in first before I put the beard on, but you know, let's do things back to front, Niamh. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly it. So it's always good to sort of have that consistency. Right, so now we're sort of down to the finally finishy bits on this. Oh, get stuff out of the way. There's a landslide. Oh. My girls have been playing with my colour pencils. It's very kind of them. Is that the same one I just put in? Yeah, of course it is. Does anyone else do that? You go and pick up something and then you pick up exactly the same colour and about to do it again. So if you didn't have the paints like we talked about before, this is where you can sort of put the colour pencils in and just, again, it doesn't need to be neat. I really apologise for my bracelets. It doesn't need to be neat. It can be quite scribbly. It's just to add in a little bit of depth of colour. Okay, so you don't mind that it's going in all sorts of directions. Sort of just putting the shapes back in again. So you know where it's dark, those lower left-hand sides. You can put something where the crease is going in. Then go back in with a lighter colour if you wanted to boost up some of the colour. Again, you don't need to do this. This is just, you know, for those people who might not have the different shades, but you might have some colour pencil at home. That's the wrong shade of red to use in this, but it does boost the red a bit. And again, it's really scritchy scratchy. I'm, you know, not... really worried about how I do it. Yes, this will be saved onto my YouTube channel, so about 10 minutes after this is finished, it will be up on my channel so you can watch it from the beginning again. So everyone can see it. I am going to go in with my black Stabilo, just because I love it. So again, you know, this isn't necessary, but it's just if you want to do it. Those people who can't keep their hands off their work. Okay, so this is where I would go in and just add a little bit of that definition to underneath where it's going to be a bit darker. And again, like really loose pencil lines, you know, I'm not, and they're really scritchy scratchy, so just sort of helps bring out the shape a little bit more. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. Pink fairy dust, there are 1 or 2 on my channel already. If you go back and have a search for art studio or art space, you will find some. To be honest, it really hasn't changed all that much since the last one I've put up. But if I do anything drastic, obviously I will do that. But yeah, if you usually on my YouTube channel, if you go and search for what you're looking for, you will usually, I've usually videoed it. All you really need to know about my art journal or my studio is this mat, not that it's clean, is the cleanest area. I always keep this space relatively tidy and everything else is a disaster zone. So good, very good question, Pink Fairy Dust, because I get that quite regularly. But yeah, if you go have a look, you'll probably find what you're looking for there. Righty ho. Okay, so sort of finishing touches on my wee man. That was very Irish, goodness me. So where's my fine white Posca pen? So I'm just going to go in and give a bit of a shine on his boot. Okay, and what I forgot to do actually, this is a good way to define the boot, is he's going to be wearing stockings. to answer Adriana's question, no, I'm not going to water. You could do if you wanted to. I'm not going to. Yeah, I'm colouring his stockings. So it just gives you a bit of definition of where his legs are. And if we go out over the edge, we're going to trim it out anyway, so it really doesn't matter. Oops. The shinies. On his nose. If you want to, you could put some on his eyes too. Just to keep myself happy, I am actually going to I don't know if I wanted to do that now. Draw in his boots. You can choose if you do that or not. I'm not sure if it helps or not. So, he's a bit cute. Just a wee bit. Something a bit different. Now I'm going to cut him out. So I like to cut things up nice and close. It's just me. You know, if, for example, I just wanted to trim up his stockings a little bit. And this is where, you know, if you cut painted outside the lines, well, this is where you can sort of help shape it up a little bit to what you want it to be. So as I said before at the very beginning when we started doing this would work exactly the same as you did it on white, but just having that black underneath just gives you that little bit more depth with the colour, I think. And it's something I don't tend to do very often, I have to say. I don't work on shaded or coloured papers very often, but it's a good challenge. I always have issues with stuff like this where you've, you know, done those furry edges and then you have to try and cut around it. It's like, but I like the furry edges. The other cool thing is you can always go in, if you cut off a bit that you really liked, you can always go back in with that dry brush again and redo it onto the page once you've glued it down. So it's not gone forever. I do like when you cut them out, you've got that opportunity just to go back and neaten everything up and get them the size you want them to. So I've chopped off a little bit of his legs. All right, the only bit I'm going to chop out now is, I'm just going to use my craft knife. So I want to get rid of this bit up here too. I find it easier with a craft knife than I do trying to get a pair of scissors in there. There we go. There's our little Santa Claus. Gnome thingy. Yes, they're the 5-inch scissors because I've put my 6-inch scissors somewhere. I don't know where I put it. Yeah, so I'll hold it up to the camera. Sometimes it's a bit hard to see. But yeah. So like it's really messy and silly, but it just gives you that little depth to what he's doing. So back to our page. There we go. Here's one I prepared earlier. can see you making one of these for the Santa in your life, Cressida. So he's really not that difficult, and hopefully not too scary to try and create yourself. It's all oops, can't glue properly. It's all about breaking things down into the simplest shapes, which is something I was really scared to do. But once you start looking at things and go, oh, well, that's just a triangle stacked on top of a triangle, and I can draw, oh, you stupid woman. I can draw a triangle. So you can fix it up. I've just stuck my Santa in paint. Just FYI, don't do that. What am I doing on Christmas Day? We've got the whole family over. So my sister's come over from Canberra with her kids, which is lovely because we haven't seen them for a while. This is why I love acrylic paint, because if you do something stupid like I've just done, you can just wipe it away. Oh, I love purple. I can't wait to see the purple and white. So we're just having breakfast together, open some presents, Christmas lunch with Mum. Probably take the kids down. Mum lives next to the beach, so take the kids down to the beach. He's winking. And then haven't decided yet, but my husband's family do a bit of a do about an hour away from where we live, so we might all hop in the car and go up there, or we might stay at home, especially this year, because Tassie, which I know all of you guys have been doing for a lot longer than we have, but we've actually just had our first mask mandate in Tassie, well, certainly up where I've lived since COVID. So we have to wear masks indoor and groups and stuff. So yeah, just getting my head around that, really. Okay, so there's our little Santy. And depending on what he looks like he's winking, doesn't he? I've got these little chipboard things from Tim Holtz. That you could use maybe to decorate your page. I don't know. Have as many or few of them on there as you want. Oops. This is the bit that always takes longest for me. I don't use glue sticks because I'm a primary school teacher and glue sticks suck. Don't know about whether it's the quality of glue sticks that we have to use at school, but they just do my head in because I spend my time picking up stuff that have fallen out of kids' books because they haven't glued it in properly, or they've lost the glue stick lids on me, or they've done something ridiculous. So glue sticks just frustrate me. I know lots of people have lots of success with them, but I think it's just PTSD from teaching that I have an issue with glue sticks. I don't know where I want to put my sayings. I don't know if I want lots or just one saying. You don't have to put anything on it at all because it kind of says everything it wants to anyway. I might just put Merry and Bright. Yeah, Merry and Bright. Or Jingle All the Way. I do Jingle All the Way. On the beard, thank you. I like it when people make my decisions for me. Now these are quote chips, so they come on a bit of chipboard. I just peel it off just so it sits on, it sits a bit lower so it's not as proud in my book. The other sensible reason, Pamela, is this is actually quick dry glue, so it does dry fairly quickly, and once it's stuck, it's stuck. So I quite like that. There we go. Jingle all the way. There we go. Finished page in 2 hours. Woohoo! Less than 2 hours. Okay, so do you have snakes in Tassie? Yes, we do. We have got brown snakes and tiger snakes. Tiger snakes are one of the top 10 deadliest snakes in Australia or in the world. I'm not 100% sure, but they're nasty suckers. So, yeah, we used to we used to get them at school I used to teach at, and we'd tell the kids they had to stamp around the school garden or out in the playground in snake season singing the school song, because the vibrations hopefully would scare them away, which is quite funny. Merry Christmas, everyone. Yes, I've had a lovely time playing with you guys. Can't wait to see what you create. Please, 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 I'd love to see what you come up with. So share it on either Instagram or in the Mixed Media Creative Queens group. My challenge for you is, if you've never posted something, to post something. So not looking at anyone particular in the class, but that would be awesome. And particularly if you've done a different colour scheme, I'm really, really keen to see what you've come up with. So thank you all so much for your support this year. I really, really appreciate it. We've got lots planned for next year too. And yeah, hopefully we might do some more of these, but we will see how we go. It was a very enjoyable way to spend the evening. Thank you so much for hanging around with me. And for those of you who are going to watch it in the future, or want to watch it again, it's going to be saved onto my YouTube channel, and I'll put links into the groups as well, so you can come back and refer to it, so you can find it. So with that, I am going to say good night or good morning to some of you who are staying up very late. And yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Spend it with your loved ones, give them a cuddle. And look after yourselves, because I hope to see you all here next year creating with me. Okay, night. Now there's the awkward bit where I have to turn you off without causing the camera to do something silly. Sorry about this. Okay, bye.